Hey, welcome back to Theoretically Practical. I'm Brent. This week we're back to the Dynahoe. A bunch of people have been asking about it. It's been a real good machine till just recently. The pilot control system has been getting air in it, vacuum leak on the suction line. And I think there's a couple different reasons for that. I think one of the JIC fittings on the pump is pretty buggered up, but it's not, you can't take that fitting off the pump. I tried, not without putting too much force into that pump, or well, pressure relief valve, and that valve's irreplaceable. So what I did get is some special sealing rings, and you'll see those when I go to install them. So, but yeah, so this is where it was when it decided that the pilot control system wasn't gonna work. I guess you could say it stumped us. I mean, you probably wouldn't. Your people of taste, well, I was gonna say your people of taste in class, but look what entertains you. No, not at all. So anyways, yeah, we're gonna get into that. It's all tore apart. It shouldn't be that big of a deal to put back together again. Then hopefully we'll get the rest of this stump out and start moving some of these piles and such. So later on this week, my buddy's gonna be over here with his mini excavator, and we're gonna spend some time and finish clearing up the lot because, well, we had one person come in to look at this, and the first question he asked is, well, if you got this great machine to clear a lot, why is the lot not clear and you're selling it? And honestly, I gave him the real answer, which is because I thought it would take forever to sell this thing. So we put it up early, figured it would take a while to move. But I totally understand why that doesn't honestly look great at all. So we're gonna put in a concerted effort to get this done, and then it'll be that much easier to sell, and also that'll prove that our fix worked. Because I mean, I don't want to sell somebody a bag of crap, you know. I mean, there's not much more fixing I can do to that reasonably, but it should work, and it should work well for whoever gets it, because, you know, I don't know. You gotta do the right thing. That's all. If you want to sleep well at night, you do the right thing. That's the right thing. So we'll see. Alrighty, so this is the pressure relief valve. I don't know if you guys can see, but right in that corner there's a big old dent, and it goes right across the sealing surface, and there's another gouge right there. So I suspect, now that I have this apart, I was so sure that it was that needle that I went and machined another one. But now I've looked at the situation, thought about what happened, it really is losing prime, it's not losing pressure. So here, I'll actually turn the right way. It's losing prime and not pressure. So I think that is the problem. Now the solution, hopefully, is one of these little guys. Now, you may never have seen one of these before. To be fair, I didn't know what they were, but I searched like for a JIC sealing gasket, and they make copper versions of this. I don't know if they're better or worse, or just a different flavor of the same thing, but the way it works is you have your valve like that, or your JIC fitting like that, and this just goes right over the damaged area, and it's ridged, and that coating on it is a special Loctite coating. So, I mean, given the damage on that surface, I don't know that I would expect this to work in a high pressure environment. I think you'd need to replace the fitting, but again, without putting a torch on and heating that up cherry red, that fitting's not coming out of that cast iron, and that cast iron is irreplaceable. So I'm gonna leave it alone. If this doesn't work, there's a few options. One of those options is they actually make like a special grinding tool so you can grind that surface off and reface it. I would really like to avoid that. I don't think that's a good idea. So I'm gonna stuff this back in there. We're gonna put that on and we're gonna tighten the crap out of it. And the other thing I didn't do last time is, once we get it running, if it's running and moving, I'm gonna let it run for a while, let the hydraulic oil heat up, let all the fittings and stuff heat up, and then put a wrench back on there and really, you know, feed it the corn again. See if I can get a little more tightness out of it, because the problem got worse and worse over time. So that says to me that, one, could be the amount of water in the hydraulic system got greater over time, though I don't really suspect that. But it's also a lot warmer out than when I first fixed it, and the fluid's been getting hotter, so it's been getting thinner because it's more water than oil. So I don't really know. But we're gonna try this because it wasn't that expensive, and it's the best shot, I think, at making this work. And it's not something that's like, it's not a temporary fix. That gasket's actually made out of stainless steel. So once it goes together, it should be good. So I have 4 of them, so I can seal both ends of this pipe, and then I have 2 extras for if I make a mistake or I drop one on the ground and lose it. So anyways, I'll show you where it's going, and then I'm just gonna put it in because it's gonna be the my butt channel if I don't do it that way. So it lives right on the back of that. Those 2 holes line up with the 2 holes in there. They get O-rings in the grooves. So the other thing I wanted to clarify is I talk a lot about the pilot controls, Well, what the hell does that even mean? Well, this is the main pump. It's a big boy. It does something like 126 gallons a minute, something like that. Those get fed from out 3 of these large hydraulic blocks. But they're valves, they need to be actuated. So the 2 stabilizer arms are actually mechanically actuated. So those are just rods that move back and forth there. And those actuate the valves. Now, they could have done that with all the controls, but there's a lot of reasons not to. One of the main one being that pilot controls can be very, very sensitive. So that's a good thing. So this is actually the valve body for the front loader. So these 2 hoses here go up to here. And so the pilot pressure pushes on these little pistons in here and actuates them. So it doesn't have to be the same amount of PSI. You can see that the reverse direction is over there. I think it's 350 PSI, roughly, is what that's set at. And so it gives you a lot of control. It also makes it easier to run lines to the controls. And to be fair, until, I don't know, pretty recently, most machines would have pilot-controlled hydraulics. They're kind of better, kind of cheaper. Well, not cheaper, but they're better. They're pretty easy to deal with, and they're a pretty good thing. So nowadays they're all electric, which is fine. I don't think any of today's machines are going to sit in the field for 30 years, though, and start up and be able to work, which, I mean, if you're a machine manufacturer, is that what you want? Well, no, but, you know, if you're a schlub like me, then yes. But fortunately, this old girl will still be going 30 years from now, most likely. So I guess it's kind of a moot point. But anyways, I kind of wanted to just explain what was going on with pilot controls and what all that means. And actually in this machine, there are 3 blocks. There's another one under there that you can't see. And each block has its own section of the pipe, which it's another thing I find odd, because you'd think, like, okay, if you're running the backhoe, you'd want like each cylinder to be running off a different section of the pump. I don't know why it's done that way. If you guys have any ideas, I'd love to hear your theories on it, but I just don't know. So, well guys, that valve is back in there. All the hoses have been hooked up. I definitely put all the nut into that big one, and it's got that little gasket on, so we'll see what happens. We're gonna go out though now and prime this line. I'm actually priming it with this hydraulic oil stop leak booster stuff from Lucas. It was at Tractor Supply. I don't know, I'm not putting in nearly as much into the system as it says to, so it probably won't do anything. But it's probably a great liquid because it's going to be thick and tacky to fill this up with. Oh, I forgot how hard it was to bend that around. All right, I need a funnel. I'll be back. Well, we're back in the cab. I gotta say, Milwaukee needs to take a note with whatever GoPro uses for their rubber around it, because I've touched this with greasy, oily fingers, and it really hasn't damaged it. So, give it a little bit on the old sort of a throttle right there. And actually now it's, make sure we're in neutral. Now we got a fancy old key, so let's give her a shot. Beautiful. Now, does the hydraulics work? Well, it just took a little bit of revving to prime it. I guess I'm not that surprised by that. That's kind of the MO, but it primed much easier than normal. So I'm just gonna set up now and dig away at that stump for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, something like that, and just start moving shit around and see what happens. Hopefully that was that. All right, guys, well, as you may have seen already, yesterday did not work out great. This thing is still pulling air from somewhere. So I pulled the whole pump out. I wanted to see if it was like in really bad shape, but if I grab the shaft, there's just a touch of side-to-side play, and if I rotate it, you know, there's just a little play in it. And if it was worn out, I'd expect some end-to-end stuff. So, especially since I don't know exactly what model this pump is, I'm gonna leave it alone. But I am gonna take off this again, because I'm pretty sure I did something stupid the other day, putting it on, actually the first time. This one bolt here, I stripped it right out. And it's on the bottom where the input side is. So I'm gonna clean it off, put a thread cert or something in there, and assemble it on my bench so that it's not like I'm leaning down in there, because I could also just pinch an O-ring or something. So I want to get it assembled properly so I can see what I'm doing, and we'll try it one more time. If that doesn't work, then while it's out, I'm going to measure. It's a 9 spline. I'm sure this is like a 2-bolt SAE pattern. I'm just going to measure it up so that I can just replace the pump, the valve, everything. It's going if it doesn't work this time, because I'm at my wit's end. So, but I really don't think it's the pump. I think the pump is good. It feels nice. There's no grindiness to it. Like, I've worked with worn out gear pumps before, and it's pretty obvious they're dickered. So, all right, guys, we're back here at the Dynahoe. Where I left off, I was sort of putting the pilot pump back together again and putting the valve back on that. Now, my battery died. I didn't want to get another battery, and I thought that was the solution. So I put it back together carefully. Everything's sealed up nice and tight. I got in the machine, started having the same problems with the pilot controls were happening. And I checked that pump out thoroughly. It had no forward, backward, up, down, no wiggle to it. It would run on air power. So you could put air to it and it would run it backwards. So, you know, didn't seem worn out. You could actually see the sides of the gears and they looked clean. So it's not that. So I thought about it some more. I ended up cleaning out the screen for the pilot tube pickup, which is down in the bottom of this tube. And it was pretty plugged up, but that was also not the problem. What I think it is now is I think that I noticed the filter was to the bypass position. And the other thing I noticed is I had filled this section of that filter in with a dielectric grease, silicone grease, just to keep water from pooling in there. And it all went away. So that tells me that this top is sucking in air. Well, no. That combined with the fact that the hydraulic oil is all frothed up lets me know that the air is getting sucked in because the filter's already partially clogged because it was a dirty tank that I put a brand new filter in. I also think the water content does not help the filter at all. So all that being said, what I'm going to do today to test it is I'm going to take the filter out, run it with no filter, which it's not the best idea in the world, but you know, it ran without a filter for God knows how long. So, you know, it's what I got to do to figure out if that's the problem. If that's the case, then I got to make an effort to build a new clear plastic cover for this. And also the side of it is missing a set screw, and make sure that this is sealing. This has an O-ring seal in it, but I got to double check that and make sure that's in good condition. So that'll help too. I think once your filter clogs, I think you're always going to have problems here. So that's the name of the game for today. I'm going to put you guys aside, pull the filter out. It didn't look dirty, but you know, you can't really tell by looking at it. So, and just see what we're dealing with. We'll get it. Probably. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So that's all looking the same, I guess. The other thing I noticed about the filter is the filter did not empty out quickly. It just stayed full of fluid when I shut the machine off. So like when I shut it off, the fluid level on the outside was way down and the fluid level on the inside just wasn't draining out. So that's why I think this filter's clogged. There's definitely some schmoo in there. I mean, the other filter was clogged too. So, but for now, for testing, I'm gonna let this drain for a minute. Put the cap back on. Okay, that's nice and tight on there. That's about all we can do. I'm just gonna put this filter to the side. Weirdly enough, this filter is cheaper at the John Deere dealership than it is on the internet. So I don't know, whatever. Yeah. And if you're curious as to why I say the John Deere filter, it's because you can't really get the original filters for these. So I converted mine to run this John Deere filter, which actually was a pretty easy process. I did a video on it, and it'll probably pop up on the screen at some point. So, you know, go watch and enjoy it if you haven't already. And then I just have to put the cover on, seal this cover up here, because one part of the system functionality is this whole tank gets pressurized, which does help this feed. And the last time it died on me, I loosened up this feed here to see, and I could hear air come out of it, pressurized, and fluid, bubbly fluid come out of it. So I know this is sucking up something. It's just a solid tube from there to the bottom of the tank with a strainer on it. I don't believe there's anything wrong with this hose yet, though I may consider replacing it, but it doesn't have any damage on it. I've pulled it, you know, it looks like it got rubbed right there a little bit, but I actually pulled it out when I had both ends disconnected and pushed it in to put my hands over all of it, and it's just denting the outside. It's not damaging anything. So I'd also like to say that I left this machine because it died with this in the up position, and you can't lower without the pilot hydraulics. I left it in this position basically like 3 or 4 days ago, and nothing, you know, nothing's touching the ground or settled down. So I feel like the hydraulics are in such good shape on this. I just want this part to work, because it should. It's close to working. It just needs just a little bit more love. A little bit more love is what it shall get. I'm gonna fire up. I'll try to get you guys to like set up in the tripod in the cab with me or something, and fire it up, and we'll run it till it dies, and then see what happened. And if it's all full of foamed up oil again, then I got to think about it. But if it's you know, if it just runs for, really, if I can run it for an hour, that'll be the new, you know, world record for it for the last few weeks, and I'll know that doing this change made something happen. So Alright guys, well, we're back with this stupid thing for the umpteenth friggin' billionth time. But one thing I did is I got rid of this O-ring that's, or not even O-ring, a squaring that's pretty chewed up, and got an O-ring. And the nice thing about the O-ring that I got is it's definitely proud and I can't make you see it that well. It's definitely proud of the surface, the way it looks like a proper O-ring seal, whereas that square ring never made me feel great. So I'm going to set this back up, and well, actually, before I'll talk about this, this is the twisty part of the telltale that gets spun to spin the part up above. That has 2 very tiny O-rings in it, and then this is the sealing bolt, whatever, and this has 1 O-ring in it. You can see mine's got a lot of corrosion on there, but the O-ring groove is actually in decent shape. So that's all the O-rings in this, but a hydraulic shop would probably have an O-ring this size. I think it's like a 246 or a 247. So yeah, we're just going to put it back together again. I'm not going to worry about a cover because for this, which I was going to do, but I've got the 2 O-ring seals. You know, you can see in the bottom of that, there's a little inset, which I can't point at because I only have 2 hands. The bore in this is nice and smooth, even though you can't see it. Take my word on it. Weirdly enough, in the manual, the cutaway of this filter did not show a gasket here, but instead showed a gasket on the end, which I think would actually work pretty poorly. I'm not going to put these spacers back in, these big washers, because the bottom of this can totally push against the bottom of that hole. I don't see any reason not to do that, and that'll make this just look a little bit cleaner and neater. To take this middle piece out, there are just two little pins. And then this ring comes out, and then the whole center section comes out. So it's pretty straightforward. It's easier than I thought it was. I should have taken it apart from day one. All right, guys, so I put the filter cap back on. We're going to start her up and we're going to run it. And if it runs for more than an hour and the hydraulics still work, then we're good. I don't know that I'll last that long though, because it is hot, hot, hot out here. And I forgot to bring a water bottle, but time is 2:06. And I'll just record another, another little timestamp when it dies on me, or doesn't die, or when I die on it. Well, I think she ran for about 15 minutes. Locked up again. I don't know. I'm going to come back tonight when it's colder out, see if I get more time. Maybe the water's boiling or something. I don't really know. I do not know. This may be one where you guys got to tell me what to do next, because frankly, I just don't know. I know the pilot pump is in good condition. I know I know that all the seals in the top of the filter housing have been replaced. I just don't know what more else there is to do with it. So, I don't know. I'm thinking well, there's only 2 things more I can really do with it. One thing more I can do with it right now, this week, and that's pull off the suction line and replace that. It could be that. I just don't think it is. It's hard for me to go and spend, a couple $100. So this bad boy right here is the suction line for the pilot control system, and I don't know, it's possible it's chafed through there, but I pulled it out and it seems good, but it's the only thing that I haven't replaced or inspected fully, so it's also going to be a complete pain in the nuts to get it back in there, which is another reason why I'm trying to avoid it, because it's got to go through that hole with the other thing and nothing. So, I don't know. I also know that good hydraulic oil wouldn't froth up like this, so that's probably the right solution. I guess I got to call a couple shops around that do more bulk hydraulic oil and, see what their cheapest drum costs. So, other than that, I got nothing. Nothing at all. All right, guys. Well, today we're here at the Dynahoe. Filter housing's out again. We've been having some problems with water getting into the oil and causing issues, or air, I mean. And one of the things I thought is I left some holes here when I originally modified the filter housing, and I thought they might be causing a vortex. Anyways, we had the tank drained. We're throwing the kitchen sink at this because the guy's coming today to hopefully buy this beast. So we're throwing the kitchen sink at it to solve the problem. It's those are now patched up. We drained the tank. We've drained the tank. We're gonna clean the suction line for the pilot controls, and yeah, we should have this problem licked this time. I mean, if it's not this, then it's gonna be I don't know. I'm out of stuff. We also are gonna put new fluid in it. I will say this says this is a 65-gallon capacity, and it just isn't. We had it filled up to the top line right around there in the tank, and we pulled 40 gallons out of it. So, and we've got a whole new bunch of tractor fluid, the cheapest money can buy. But also it's probably gonna get contaminated and need to be redone at some point. So we're not putting a filter in it right now because the old filter has water in it and it's clogged, and we don't wanna do that, and I couldn't get another filter in time. So we're gonna clean out this thing, and we're gonna fill it back up again, and then we're not gonna have any more problems with it. Or we're just gonna, you know, drive it down the middle of Main Street Killdozer style and park it in a building somewhere and walk away. That seems like the solution to me. So one of the things is I've cleaned this out once before and it looked all like this, but we have got some hellacious, I don't even know what it is. It's not rust. It's like, I don't know, some sort of growth or shmoo. I don't know what kind of horrible mess it is, but we're gonna clean this strainer out too, so that there's no chance of this trying to suck a vacuum. So we're gonna get this cleaned out. We're gonna get this tank cleaned out. There is some sludge on the bottom of it. We're gonna try to do our best to get rid of that. And then we're gonna seal everything up properly with Permatex, and we're gonna give her hell, probably. Hi guys, all right, we are full up on oil. And that right there, which is a little bit over full, but I did crank it over a little bit to get some out of the system as well, is exactly 50 gallons. So when the manual says 63-gallon capacity for the oil tank, I don't know what they're smoking, but it's just not true. 25 gallons gets you to the minimum amount to run, and 50 gallons fills it to the absolute brim. We're brimming it here because if the seal right there is somehow not 100%, well, this will keep it from sucking air. We just want this thing to run. We've put in the effort. It's time for it to pay us back. So we'll see. I'm just gonna slap this on for now. We're gonna run it for a little bit and see what she does. I did smear a little Permatex over this. I don't think, just in case there was a suction leak, it'll suck it in and seal itself off. I don't think it'll do any good. If this was pressure, this would do nothing at all. So, and I'm not sure it'll do anything at all on suction either, but it is what it is. So let's, we're gonna pull the tools off it because I've dropped that on the ground and run over it with the Dynahoe before. So we're not gonna do that again. And then we'll fire up. guys, well, this is sort of the wrap-up conclusion to the Dynahoe. I've kind of figured out that all the water in the oil system is really coming from the return, at least definitely the return from the pilot control system, but also the main control. The pilot control system just shoots straight down into the tank at the surface of the water, so creating maximum bubbles. I don't know why I was so obsessed with the fact that, oh, it must be bubbles from the suction side, it must be the suction side, other than sometimes I can just absolutely shove my head up my own ass. And so anyways, now I know where the foam is coming from. We figured out that with more oil and less water, it runs longer. Kind of just needs to be properly flushed, which kind of brings me back to maybe I want to buy a vacuum pump and build myself a system, because I think it needs like 3 or 4 flushes to get good. So that's what's up with that. And everything was going great until I broke a pin. It's just a little guy, 2 3/4 inch pin. So I need to make a new one of these, and it's not just that easy though, because it's about 2 feet long, and this is the nut for the other end. So it's got to be something like that. Luckily, I've been watching Cutting Edge Engineering Australia, and it's a good channel. I like them. And so I will reclaim the flange, whatever you call it. I don't know. We're also going to drill it out and put the Zerk fittings in it and everything. That's what those the little grease fittings in the center of that picture, they're called Zerks. If you didn't know, you probably do. In any case, that's it for now. The Dynahoe is working good, running hard. It'll run for an hour or 2 now instead of just 15 minutes. So it's just a matter of drying that oil out, which, you know, sometimes you just got to fix the obvious problem first, and sometimes you want to avoid that because it's expensive, but it doesn't make it any less likely. So, hey guys, have a great week. I'm sorry videos have been a little spotty lately. I want to get at least 2 a month. You know, I really would love to keep doing one once a week, but the size of the projects has been increasing. So there's only so much I can do. And it's you know, September in Maine, so it's getting ready for winter season as well. So yeah, and if you're still here, the Defender axles are all painted up, but you're gonna see more of that in another video. You're gonna see it drive. Yeah, real soon, or later, but probably soon.